Hello everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. Look at this, the FTSE 100 is at all-time highs. What is going on in the world? The world truly has gone mad that the most boring stock market index for many years is hitting all-time highs. There we go, through 8,500. So that'll be interesting. We'll take a look at that in a bit. So welcome to the live stream. If you haven't attended these before, I run them every Friday at 2:30 UK time, just as US markets are getting underway and opening up. And in it, we will take a look at the major events for next week. Many markets are shut on Monday of next week due to Martin Luther King Day in the US. So US markets and some of the commodity markets are shut. So we'll take a look at the major announcements for next week. What else do we do? We'll have a look at all the different markets. We'll have a look at stock market indices, currencies, gold, silver, oil, natural gas, Bitcoin, bit of everything is what we'll take a look at. And of course, if there's any markets that you want looking at, if you can just put that in the chat as we're going through today, that'd be good. But I think that was interesting. It's been an interesting week this week. It's been quite a bit of volatility. You know, we had the, what do we have? UK and US inflation this week. We've seen the pound under pressure. So the pound on Monday hit a, what was it? 14-month, 15-month low against the US dollar. So a bit of volatility there. We'll have a look at all of this in a second though. I'm currently long sterling yen, and that has not worked out as I thought it would so far, and I'm long the dollar index as well. That's doing okay. I bought that after the inflation sell-off, so that's interesting. I was long oil this week. I've come out of that though yesterday. That was a good trade in the end. Great trend that in oil. That could be an interesting one for next week. But anyway, we'll have a look at all of this stuff as we go. Let's get into the housekeeping. So, let's do a risk warning first of all, for the sake of good order. This presentation is only for educational. This presentation is only for educational purposes. It does not contain and should not be construed as containing investment advice or an investment recommendation or an offer of or solicitation for a transaction in any financial instrument. David Jones accepts no responsibility for any use that may be made of these comments and for any consequences that result. You should consider whether you understand how spread bets, CFDs, futures, foreign exchange work, and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing your money. Trading is risky. Okay, before I start, if you're watching this, I guess that probably most of you who are watching it live are subscribers. If you're watching it after the fact and you're not subscribed, can I ask you to subscribe to the channel? There's a video going out on Saturday, and it's a little bit of a different video to the normal style, but I've done a series of chats with an old workmate who's been in the markets for 30 years. So we're doing a series of videos on, why people lose from all the people we've spoken to over the years. Is our markets rigged against us? A whole load of different topics. So if you're subscribed, you'll get the notification when that goes live tomorrow. That will probably go live about lunchtime, UK time, Saturday tomorrow. I'm just finishing that off now. So hopefully that'll be interesting. So the normal market stuff will continue, but I just thought I'd do some different stuff as well. So that's going out on Saturday. So subscribe if you haven't already. And of course, like if you can do. I never ask for that, but likes, they all help the algorithm, don't they? So if you could do that. Anyway, next week, a bit quieter next week. Like I said, Monday is Martin Luther King Day in the US. So quiet day I would expect on Monday. Is it the inauguration on Monday? Is it Mr. Trump's? Would it be on Martin Luther King Day? President Trump inauguration. What's the date? Oh yeah, that's Monday as well. Oh, there you go. There's a lot happening on Monday. So so eyes will not be on markets on Monday, so a quiet day. But the rest of the week, we've got UK unemployment on Tuesday. It could be interesting, given the focus on the state of the UK economy at the moment and whether our glorious political leaders are doing a glorious job or not so much. So that'll be interesting. Tuesday morning. UK unemployment. I don't mean UK unemployment's okay, I think, isn't it? There's not much in the way of dramas, I don't think, for UK unemployment. But given the concerns about gilt yields and the state of the pound, it might have more of an impact than usual. Thursday we've got Japanese inflation. Inflation is still very much a hot topic, of course. We've had UK and US inflation this week. Friday, early morning, we've got the Japanese interest rate. That could cause some early morning excitement. And then in the US, in the afternoon, we've got the various purchasing managers index data, which is a barometer for the health or not of the economy. Often that could be the thing. That's probably going to be one of the bigger things, I would guess, next week. But that's next Friday. That'll be happening, I think. I think that happens as we do Friday's live stream. So we might see a bit of volatility off that. I'm a bit tired this week. I've done a lot of work this week by my standards. So I am flagging at the moment, but I'm going to keep plugging along. It's a bit more of a relaxed market outlook thing today. So that's that. So that's next week. So like I say, US closed a lot of it on Monday. So a slow start to the week. Let's see what happens. That's it, isn't it? Should we get into it? We'll come back to that afterwards. Where should we start? Let's start with stock markets as per. US stock markets there are times, I run this WhatsApp group and I do say, in the WhatsApp group, there are times, probably every 4 or 5 weeks or so, where I look at markets and think, do you know what, I haven't got a clue. And that has absolutely been me with the US stock market these last few weeks. The big trend is up. So absolutely, for me, from an investment point of view, I am still long the NASDAQ and long the S&P via ETFs. Because the trend's up and blah, blah, blah. But we've been in this correction now since before Christmas. And I would have gone short yesterday, but I wasn't trading. But it's broken out today. Let's see what happens. I'd still be tempted to go short with a stop on the S&P, a stop somewhere above 6,000 to see, does it get under a bit of pressure next week? I don't know. I mean, the big trends are up, obviously. Let's not forget that. But we're all a bit corrective. There's the NASDAQ. That's had a bit of an opening surge. A couple of 100 points so far today. Let's see what happens. So, yeah, not much excitement for me for a change in US stocks. All a bit sideways for about 6 weeks or so. So, there you go. That's that, really. What does the Dow look like? The Dow. Oh, that was it. That would have been a good trade. So the Dow did come back to those pre-election lows from early November and held and bounced. So longer term, I'm still expecting gains this year in US stock markets. It's just been a bit of a dull time, I think, the last few weeks. But let's have a look at the FTSE, the mighty FTSE 100. Once again, Britain rules the waves, the Elliott waves. All-time highs. I mean, I often say I don't like the FTSE because it does not a lot. If you look at that's from May last year till now, and bang, here we go. I wonder what's caused that then. There must be let me have a look. Let me do a little bit of research here. Let's see. Bear with me a second. What are the big movers in the FTSE today? Because it's not like we're seeing a load of pound weakness to drive these markets higher. Sorry. So let's see. Let me drag this over. This is our FTSE. What's the movers and shakers? Entain. God, I don't even know what they do. Travel and leisure. All right. Entain. So that's having a good day. Smiths Group. Oh, some big movers here. Prudential up 4%. Anglo American. I got shares in Anglo American. Thank God they get a bit of a move on. 3%. Taylor Wimpey. Oh, I came out of those. Oh, there's not like a standout sector that's having a particularly good day, is it? I don't think. Persimmon, Taylor Wimpey, are they house builders? Maybe that's helping. Yeah. There's nothing. It's not like the banking sector is doing enormously well, is it? But anyway, so that's interesting. FTSE, very often quite a sluggish market, I find. But breakout. Interesting week next week. Is the FTSE going to outperform the S&P this year? Could happen. Wouldn't put money on it, but these things can change. So that's an interesting market for next week. As Richard has just said, the Germans are at it as well. The DAX broke out to all-time highs earlier this week, continuing that trend. And also the Italians. The old Axis powers at it again. So up and away, the Italian market, all-time highs. So I think, in all seriousness, these European markets to me are interesting next week. Particularly if we get a bit of a dip back. Where does the dip stop? Where do the buyers come back in? But to me, it is significant that the German, the Italian, and also the FTSE has broken out to all-time highs in the last couple of days, and the old US markets lagging behind. So let's see what happens. Perhaps we're going to have an interesting few months in European markets, but I would be looking to be a buyer next week. The others, the Japanese market, not doing much, I don't think. There we go. There's the Nikkei. All of it sideways in the Nikkei. Nothing too exciting there. The Russell, the US smaller cap, I thought that was interesting because this trend since November 23, so what's that, 14 months or something, it's come down to the trend. So again, if the Russell was going to rally from anywhere, we should have seen the bounce point so far. So that's pretty interesting. Bit of bullish divergence on the old RSIs for those who are fans of that sort of thing, which again can often suggest that the sell-off that we had been through has gone too far. Let's see. Interesting week. Interesting one for that one next week, and interesting one for those big European indices. What's the Aussie index doing? That had done all right. The Australian stock market index, I traded that in about March or April, and it went nowhere. And then it sort of finally got a move on. I came out of it end of December. So it ended up being a good trade. It didn't go anywhere for a long time. But again, the Aussie index hit all-time highs in December. Ripper, as they might say, down there. And the trend is definitely up on the Aussie. So stock markets, I think they're all positive. Some are a bit more boring than others, but all good. Let's take a look. Let's dip into some of the currencies. I mentioned I'm long the dollar index at the moment, the dollar basket, whatever it's called. So it's the dollar against however many currencies, 9 or something, I don't know. But the trend has been up. I bought that. I had been in it before. I came out of it earlier this week at some point, and I got back in on that US inflation day. Interesting market, I think. The trend has been up since whenever it is, September. 107.58 is a level on my chart, 150 points away, has been big support. I think it's going to be an interesting year. What happens, obviously, with the new government in the US? Did you see that speech? I think in President Biden yesterday said that we should be worried because there are oligarchs at the top of government. I only caught a bit of it, but there we go. It should be an interesting year. So that's that. Dollar index still looks good to me. I'm long. Let's see what happens. If I was going to come up with a target, and I don't like doing targets because it's a bit pointless, but if 114 is an obvious one, 500 points from where we are now, if we were to see a good year for the US dollar, but maybe that will change. Who knows? Will be interesting anyway. So that's that. Pound against the dollar, still weak. It's interesting, the pound. There's so much doom and gloom, particularly if you're in the UK. The UK press love a bit of doom and gloom. The pound only in September was at its best levels against the dollar for 18 months, and then that's all gone. And here we are back at the worst levels for 14 months, October 2023 lows. I am expecting the rally. I would be expecting the rally for the pound from here. I have bought sterling yen a bit early, but I think if it's going to turn around anywhere, these old lows, sort of 118 from March 23 to September 23, 120, this could be an area where it turns around. So that'd be interesting. But obviously we'd need to see dollar weakness for that to happen. Let's see how that all works out. Euro against the dollar, like the pound, everything against the dollar is pretty much getting hit at the moment. Euro trend is still down. The euro hit a 2-year low probably. Yeah, 2-year low against the dollar. Will we see parity, back to 1-to-1 euro dollar? Who knows? So let's see what happens there. But I thought that was interesting. What else should we look at? Gold. Let's look at gold and silver. Gold and silver. Gold, the trend is still up. Gold's had a good week, I think, or a good couple of weeks. Nice trend in gold since 18th of December. So that's a good month, really, isn't it? It's gained about $120, 5% since the early December. Big trend, absolutely up on gold. But just a bit since that all-time high was hit in October, all a bit sideways, really. But I'd absolutely be a buyer of the dip on gold. It just depends on your time frame. You know, I would have a stop underneath that low, November low, 25.36 on the daily charts. So I thought that was interesting, but not a lot for me there at the moment, because even though it's had a good few weeks, it's still all a bit sideways. Silver, I mean, there's I think I said this last week, there was an argument for buying silver. It's, as I often say, it's a funny old market, silver. It has these runs and then it just absolutely dies, you know. So for me, lots of support from 26 to 27.70. But it's all a bit scrappy, isn't it? You know, it's trading now where it was in May of last year. So I'm not that bothered, to be honest. So let's see what happens with that. Bitcoin is on the move again. Oh my, it's died. There we go. Bitcoin's on the move. So it did this 85 to 90 roughly area has been good support for Bitcoin. Maybe it's clearer on the hourly chart. There we go. So you know, when it dipped down, what did it dip down to? When was that? Monday. Briefly below 90,000, and we're back up again. I mean, again, you could say, you know, broadly sideways since that all-time high before Christmas. Let's see what happens next week. You know, do we get the Bitcoin break with Mr. Trump and Mr. Musk? I was going to say partners in crime then, not partners in crime, obviously. Both in the White House. Does that give the old crypto world a bit of a bump? Who knows? Let's see what happens though. But it'd be interesting to see, you know, if we did get the breakout again on Bitcoin through 108,000, where it goes next. So that's that. Bitcoin, gold, silver. So yeah, nothing too much exciting. Oil, it's been a really good trade, that oil trade. I don't know if I said last week, I did the trade in here somewhere at 73, and I was a bit reluctant to do it because it's all a bit sideways on the daily chart, but I did it, and lo and behold, it went up. So yeah, that's been good. That trend is still up for me. I came out of it yesterday. I cranked the stop up, came out of it, but I'd be a buyer. You know, an aggressive stop. These are the lows for the week, aren't they? So for me, an aggressive stop on oil would be the other side of 77, which were the lows for the week. It's currently 79 and a little bit. So yeah, in that time frame, oil looks positive. In the bigger time frame, it's still all a bit sideways. You know, that's oil over the last 18 months or so, all of it sideways. You know, this, I do wonder, are we getting near the place? You know, it hasn't spent much time over 80 since the summer. Does it start to struggle a bit up here? Let's see. Let's see what next week brings. But in the more shorter term time frame, I would be a buyer of oil. There still seems to be momentum there. Natural gas, again, that's a great trend in the old crazy one. Natural gas trend has been up since November, so we're 2.5 months into that. I'd have to be a buyer of the dip on natural gas. I think what would concern me though, if I was a buyer, is this level since late December. Let's call it 450 natural gas cash. Hasn't been broken. Yeah, so natural gas cannot break that so far. But for me, I would still be a buyer because the trend is up, and that is all I care about, really. So yeah, I'd be a buyer of natural gas. Interesting on the dailies, I thought. Interesting market for this year. You know, it spent a lot of last year, broad sideways range, started breaking out towards the end of last year, and here we are. Let's see what this year does for natural gas. You know, do we see natural gas back at $10? I mean, anything's possible. It could be $100. It could be 2 cents because it's natural gas and it does whatever it wants to do. $10 might be a bit punchy, but you never know. Let's see what happens. But you know, for me, the trend on natural gas is up. I think it's an interesting market. So yeah, let's see what happens there. Right, what haven't we done? Is that everything? Seems to have gone through that quite quickly. Gilts. We have a look at gilts, UK gilts. These are having a bit of a bounce, UK gilts. Again, after all the recent news, they had a bit of a lift on inflation. This is the hourly chart. But the big trend is still down. So, you know, I'd have to, as a good trend follower, I'd have to be a seller of the rally still, I think, on gilts, to be honest. But it is interesting, you know, if you thought, well, you know, that the panic in gilts is over, well, now's the time to buy then, isn't it? Let's see what happens. But I'd still be inclined to think the trend is still down on gilts, you know, and it's been down for years. If you go to the dailies, 2020, as it has been for the European bond since August 19, as it has been for US Treasury bonds, you know. So even though UK gilts have been in the news for those of us in the UK. What's going on in bond markets is pretty much a global thing, so there you go. That's that. What else looks interesting can we talk about before we go and have a look at what you want to have a look at? Let me have a quick scroll down. Orange juice. I'm still waiting to buy orange juice. I'm determined to buy orange juice because the big trend is up. It hit an all-time high in December. It has gone through that trend line, but I wonder if these old lows hold. So that's a market for me to watch next week from a more longer term point of view to see if I can buy the dip in orange juice. So I think that's interesting. So in summary, Monday is a US holiday. So a bit of a quiet start to the week, but we don't need the Americans when we've got these European markets blowing the roof off. So FTSE at all-time highs, the DAX, the Germans at all-time highs, and mamma mia, the Italians at all-time highs as well. Really interesting, I think. So yeah, I would be, if these markets dip next week, that is interesting setups for me. The dollar index, I'm long the dollar index, sit with it, see what happens. I'm long sterling yen, which is not, it's having a little moment now, but sterling yen, for me, this is the, I wanted to buy the pound and I didn't want to buy the pound against the dollar. So I picked on sterling yen because the trend has sort of been up since August. Basically 188 has to hold for me. I did the trade this week in this account as well. So there it is in this account. The video went out earlier this week. I bought it at 190, 170. Wide stop, 185 down here. But it's a volatile market, from Christmas to now, it's moved 800 points, 900 points. So if a market can move that much in a couple of weeks, if I'm trying to catch a big move, then I need to give the thing time to move around, don't I? Of course I do. So yeah, that's the sterling yen trade. Let's see what happens with that one. We'll take a look at the stuff you want looking at. Before I do that, I did an exclusive webinar last night on longer term position trading. I used to do a lot of longer term trading a few years ago. I got a bit more distracted by shorter term stuff in recent years for various reasons. And I'm going back to the longer term stuff this year. So I talked about the benefits of longer term position trading, what to look for, managing risk, riding the trend, adding to positions, how to start. So I did it for the WhatsApp group. So I ran a WhatsApp group last night from 7 UK till about 8 UK. Everyone seems to like it, which is good. I enjoy doing it, which is also good. If it's recorded, if you'd like access to the recording, all you need to do, no surprises, join the WhatsApp group. So the WhatsApp group is month by month, a morning update from me on a whole load of markets, a bit like this, but written down. And then a US market update in the afternoon and any questions answered as the day goes on. So well worth the subscription fee, and you'll get access to that webinar if you join. The link is no doubt in the description to this video. Use the code YouTube to get 20% off the first month. And then once you're in, I'll send you the link to the recording. Or you can join the broker I recommend. I've been working with these guys for 2 years. I trade with them. They're the ones at the bottom in the trade we just saw. Go to bit.ly/David Trade. If you open an account with those, I don't know you've opened an account because of GDPR and all that doodah. So send me an email when you've opened an account and I'll send you a link to that webinar. So 2 ways of doing it. Join the WhatsApp group or try the broker. That is it. Okay, let's take a look at Les Marchés. What is going on? What do you want to look at? How has the seasonal upside momentum with financial reports started to you? I'm not quite sure what that question is. Do you mean the financial data, like inflation and stuff like that? I don't know. To be honest, I don't think there's anything out of the ordinary so far this year, I would say. So for me, as you know, if you've watched a few of these, I just look at what the market's doing. I'm obviously aware when stuff like inflation comes out, like earlier this week. I'm aware of that, but I don't get too bogged down in the ins and outs of it. So I just have a look at what the market's doing. I was wondering if you could give your opinion on Coinbase. Let's bring that one up. As Mr. Trump is inaugurated next week, do you think any other crypto stocks may rise more than Coin? Don't know. I don't know that much, if anything, about crypto stocks, to be honest. I mean, Coinbase is the main one, obviously. And I mean, I don't know. What would you do? I mean, I'd be a buyer because the trend has been up. Clearly, what is going on in the world of crypto affects a business like Coinbase because it's a crypto exchange. I'd be a buyer. I'd rather buy a dip. If I was a buyer today, I'd probably want my stop below 220, which is a big old stop with Coinbase trading at 296, 297. It's a big stop there. So for me, I'd buy the dip. It looks positive to me, but the whole risk versus reward does not stack up at current levels for me. So a dip would be interesting. So and I think, like I said, when we looked at some of that Bitcoin, it'd be interesting, when Mr. Trump comes in, does that mean a lift for the cryptos again? Or is it already priced in? Let's not forget markets. There's no secret that the new president is going to be President Trump and Mr. Musk is his, whatever job Musk's doing. And there, there's a bit of a crypto focus there. Let's see what happens. I'm not too sure. Johnson & Johnson. Let's have a look, Nick. Now, Johnson & Johnson, I remember, big downtrend, Johnson & Johnson. But again, I think the same for me, really. I mean, I wouldn't buy it because the trend is down since April 2022. So we're 3 years into that downtrend. The aggressive trade, if you thought it all overshot to the downside, be a buyer at 148, where we are now. Stops under that low for the year so far, around 140 or whatever it is. Oh, that's in the wrong place. Yeah, that's what I would do. So that would be, like I say, I wouldn't buy it because the trend is down. But for me, interesting if we get something of an oversold rally from here in Johnson & Johnson, I would say. So cocoa, New York cocoa. Is that the normal cocoa that I look at? Let's have a look. Cocoa. I guess it's all the same, isn't it? I mean, I still think I should buy that. Excuse me. Let's bring it up. Let's find it first. Where's it gone? Cocoa. Oh, it's had a move, isn't it? Should have bought it yesterday. I still think that's an interesting market for this year. It was absolutely loopy. First 4 months of January of 2024, tripled in price. It was going up, as we discussed in the webinar last night. Cocoa was already going up coming into 2024. So that the fact it went nuts was a bonus. Broke out again recently. Sold off. It's been very choppy. So I'd buy it. And I'd put a stop at the other side of 97.50, 9,750 or whatever it is. Interesting market if it does find a bit of momentum again, I think, in cocoa. Do gaps fill most of the time on charts? Do you know? I'm not sure they do. I think you mentioned that when we were looking at oil. There is a whole area of chart analysis that deals with gaps. We had the gap here at the beginning of the week, little gap in oil. It closed at 76.75, opened at 77.40, so it gapped higher. And there are some people who say, gaps are always filled. I've never paid enough attention to them to have a proper opinion. I don't really overthink gaps too much. I mean, natural gas has been gapping at the start of the week. Here we go. That's end of December. Gaps higher, fills the gap. Again here, beginning of Jan, gaps higher, fills the gap. And then here, gaps higher on this. This is all Sunday night trading when everyone's on Sunday night, and fills the gap. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I never bother worrying about it, to be perfectly honest with you. Meta and Oracle. Meta, the old Facebook, of course. I would be a buyer. I know that without looking at it, because the trend is up, isn't it? So it's been a bit sideways since that all-time high in December, but that's only like 5 weeks ago. So let's be a bit patient and give it a chance. I'd be a buyer. I'd probably rather buy a dip. I'd rather have a stop, probably below at least 549. So and Oracle, ORCL. That's interesting, isn't it? We looked at those before, haven't we? I would buy that. There you go. Should we buy it? Let's buy that. Let's do a trade. I haven't done a trade for ages in this WhatsApp group. This live stream thing. Let's have a look. It's interesting, Oracle. There's another example of a gap, isn't it? I'm guessing that's an earnings gap. So they earnings. So earnings were in September, or the gap was in September, I should say. Closed at 140, opened the next day at 154, hasn't filled the gap, and then ran all the way up to 200, come back down again. I'm going to be a buyer, and I'm going to put my stop loss 147, 146 stop loss. Right, let's buy them. Let's buy them. Or can I actually trade it? I don't know. Maybe it's too big. Maybe I've not got enough money to trade it. Let's have a look and see. Oracle. Let's do the mini. That's handy. Mini. Right, let's do that. So what did I say? 146, didn't I? So stop at 146. This is real money. This is my real money. This isn't my normal trading account. It's the YouTube account. But it is real money. I'm not one of these doofuses who just trades on a demo account. So how much risk? Let's only do 50 quid risk. Let's not go crazy. Or 65. There we go. So we're going to be a buyer at 162.43 and a seller wherever it is and a stop at 146. Buy. Done. There we go. Let's see how that one works out. There's another stock trade we did ages ago in here, and that was up a lot in the beginning. There we go. Bought it. Where did I buy it? Bought it here. Was up, and it came all the way back down, and it's a bit sideways. That's JD.com. So that's that one. And there's the Oracle trade. I think that's interesting because we came back to the old support, and it's held-ish. Let's see, do we get the bounce from here in Oracle? Interesting trade, I think. DJT, Donald Trump Media, if I'm not very much mistaken. Trump Media and Technology. I mean, that's been nuts, isn't it? What's that done this year? So it started this year around $17, touched 80, went to 11, went to 55. That's, I'm guessing, no, that's not even the election. For me, I don't know. What would you do? It's just nuts, isn't it? You know, you might as well just be plotting how fast raindrops fall down a window. The amount of sense that chart makes to me. So I don't know. I think it's a bit of a coin flip, isn't it? Don't know. I'd probably rather buy it than sell it, but I wouldn't do anything because it's just, look at it. It's just a bit, it's just crazy. It's entertaining, but there's no real discernible trend in there, is there? I'd much rather go and buy something like Apple. Let's see what Apple are doing today. They got clobbered yesterday. Like Apple, there's a definite trend in place. So I want to be a buyer somewhere with that. The old Trump Media, it's a little bit crazy, isn't it? So yeah, it's not one for me. PayPal. PayPal really turned things round, didn't they, from memory? Yes. Oh, yeah, they did, didn't they? So that was, because they were really, so where were they? When was that? 2021. They were $311. They fell as low as 50. Wow. And they've turned it around since then. So I think, you know, we are absolutely in this, I would say, in the recovery for PayPal. Bit of a steep old trend, but I would be a buyer still, I think. Because it's sort of fallen out of the trend, but I would say I don't care. It's still going up for now. So the question is, where would my stop go? I would probably say the other side of $80, or maybe, no, 80 is quite a good stop on that. Let's do PayPal as well. So I'm going to do that. So that would be, let's say 78 stop on PayPal. Let's do that. I think that's an interesting one, isn't it? Rack up some risk on a Friday afternoon. Hang on a second, let me do this properly. Let's see what happens. Can I do it? I've forgotten what I've said now. 78 I said, didn't I? 78 for a stop. Stop loss, 78. And my risk is 130 quid. Hang on. What I'm going to do is the PayPal Mini then. Because I don't want to risk 130 quid on my PayPal trade with a 1,000 quid account. So we'll do the PayPal Mini. So stop loss is 78, I said, didn't I? Let's do about 50 quid's worth of risk on that. There we go. Bish, bash, bosh. Done. And we can see how they all do over the next few weeks. I think that's interesting, PayPal. I don't know, Kev. Netflix reports next Tuesday. I was in those last year for a bit. Let's have a look at those. Oh, they're interesting. Oh, they would be. They'd be a buy as well. So they got results out on Tuesday. I would be a buyer as usual. I would wait till after the results, and the risk is if they blow the roof off, they blow the roof off without me. Yeah, I'd be a buyer. What was the old highs on Netflix? About 720. That trend line's coming in at 720. I'd say short-term support at 800. Oh, that's a really interesting one. I think that is for when the results come out. But absolutely, the trend is up in Netflix. So yeah, nice one. Let's see how that looks after the results. Sentinel-1. Sentinel-1. I mean, it's quite volatile, isn't it? I don't know. I'd buy it. If I had to do anything, I'd buy it. But, you know, it's gone from $14 in June to 30-something, 29. So it doubled by October, and it's back sort of in the middle of the range, isn't it? I would buy it. If I had to do anything, I'd buy it. I'd probably put a stop the other side of $20. But again, not really a trend. DDOG. Datadog. I remember these from before. What do these look like? Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting, isn't it? Let's tidy this up a bit. I'd be a buyer somewhere. I don't know. I think I'd want to be perhaps a little bit more patient. I'd want to stop below 121 on these. I think that's an interesting one for next week. Let's have a look at it next Friday if you're around. We'll have another look at that one next Friday and see what that looks like. But I would absolutely like to buy the dip on Datadog on that one. DAL, is that Delta? Delta Airlines, didn't they have a bit of a move this week because of earnings? Is that there? So I'd buy them. It's all been a bit scrappy though, isn't it? But absolutely, you know, what's interesting, it's broken out through the old 2019 highs, which is bullish. It hasn't got that much of a move on, but basically if I was a buyer today, I'd put a stop at 56. So I'd probably rather wait a bit, but that would, you know, for me, the trend is up, so absolutely I would want to be a buyer of those things. There you go. That's it. Quite some interesting US stocks today, isn't there? Let's see. So like I say, I think that's it. If there's no more questions, we're done. So if you want access to that longer term trading webinar, either join the WhatsApp group, which is great value for money, and you can leave after a month, but most people don't. It's not like the Hotel California. You can check out and leave. Use the code YouTube for 20% off the first month, or join the broker, send me an email when you've done it, and I'll send you a link to that long-term webinar thing. And if you have any questions, drop me an email, dj@davidjonestrading.co.uk. More than happy to answer any questions. I don't have all the answers, but I've been doing this a long time, so I always have an opinion. Otherwise, we're done, aren't we? I'll put that video out tomorrow. Be an interesting one. Give it a watch. See what you think about it. A little bit of a different one for the channel. Trying to just dispel some of the myths of trading and all of that. Otherwise, we'll wrap things up there. Thanks for coming along. Have a good weekend. Let's see where everything is this time next week. Let's see if the FTSE still manages to go higher. But I think an interesting week next week for these European stock markets with the breaks that we're seeing today. So let's see where we are. Okay, thanks for coming along. Good luck with your trading and see you next week.